Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PJo Show today. Yeah, here we are. We're back at the PJo Show. I'm a little low energy today. I'm going to be pretty honest with you. I've been feeling like I needed to record, but I've kind of not wanted to record, and because I've been kind of not down, just a low vibration, which is fine. Everything is good, but I've said that I was going to come to you exactly as I am, where I am. And I almost think that I'm supposed to be a little, not down, but again, a little low and exposed when I talk to you about what I'm going to talk to you about today. It's something that, it's something that really means a whole lot to me. And it is, it's taking off our masks. And not COVID masks, the masks we wear every day, the masks of perfection, the masks that makes us a little bit more acceptable. I'm using quotes there, acceptable by the world. And what happens is those masks keep us alone. They keep us disconnected. And so I'm going to talk to you about that today. I feel very strongly about this. In fact, so strongly last year when I was feeling called to do a podcast in some type, I had come up with, I decided it was going to be called Without My Mask. That was going to be my whole podcast. I was going to do a blog, everything. Like it was without my mask, because I had worn a mask for many years, many years of hiding. I didn't want people to see all the dark stuff that I was going through. So I put on this mask of everything's great. Woo! I'm great. Don't worry about me. Everything's fine. And behind that mask, I was anything but great. I was really in a dark place. So I have always been very passionate about that. And I mean, I had hats made up that said "Without My Mask," and I got one for my friend, and we wore them when we went to Oregon last year together. And suddenly masks became a political statement. And I thought, that's all still okay. Like, COVID is temporary. This COVID mask is temporary, but the mask that I'm talking about is a little bit more deep. And really I wasn't supposed to be using that, which was fine. Like, so it was just really interesting that, I named my first podcast that and had hats made up, and then COVID happened and everybody got real uppity about masks. So, that went away. And that's okay. That's okay. I'm still very passionate about showing up without a mask on. Again, not a COVID mask. And this is the last time I'm going to talk. I'm not going to say, this is the last time I'm saying that. The masks I'm referring to from here on out has nothing to do with protecting us from a virus. So moving on. So I would wear a mask everywhere I went. And I was terrified that mask of okay, I'm okay, would slip and fall, and somebody would see what a shit show I was, and they would not want to be around me, or that I would suddenly be unworthy of their companionship or their connection. And that is really what it all boils down to, right? I know I talked to you about the loneliness and how that kind of got me on my path of self-acceptance, because I had to learn how to accept myself for all of my ins and my outs and my big and my ugly and all of that. Well, what that also allowed me to do, like once I cured the internal loneliness, once I got connected to me and it accepted my bigness, I accepted the sparkle, and I'm also working on accepting all of the shit show. It has allowed me to to deliberately and lovingly remove the mask of perfection that I would wear. And when I do that, when I show up in authenticity, just as I am right now, I can connect with people from an authentic space and an authentic place. So I don't have to ever worry about them seeing me without my mask on, right? And there is freedom. That is true freedom. Because friends, here's the thing. We're not supposed to do this life alone. I think some of the times we convince ourselves that we're supposed to, that we're supposed to do life by ourselves, or we're only supposed to do lives with others when our life is perfect, which, spoiler alert, that's never going to happen. Your life is never going to be perfect in the way that you are desperately pursuing it to be perfect. I believe that my life is perfect right now because it is, it's exactly as it's supposed to be. Now, does that mean that my house isn't dirty? Nope. Does it mean that I know everything I need to know? Nope. I have just accepted my life as being exactly how it's supposed to be, and therefore it is perfect. My church says that a lot, that we are, that's one of the tenements of our church and our New Thought religion is you are whole, complete, and perfect just as you are. And that took me a long time to wrap my brain around because I'm not perfect. No one is perfect. But if I believe that exactly where I am is where I'm supposed to be, then I am perfect. Everything is perfectly planned, perfectly supported, perfectly guided. So, in a spiritual sense, yes, you are perfect. Your life is perfect. In a literal sense, no, your life is not perfect, and it will never be perfect. And the lives that we see on social media and the lives that we see represented on television and through all sorts of media are not true. They're not authentic. The people out there who are acting like they have it all, they, if they're not in integrity, they are not being true. And that's one of the things that's going away too, right? Or my coach talks about integrity overhaul 2020. And that's what happened last year. A lot of people just got tired of bullshit. Like we just got tired of feeling like we're the only people that are struggling. So if there were people out there who were presenting that everything was hunky-dory and rainbow and sunshine and unicorn and skipping, and we kind of got tired of that. We're like, no, that's not true. And I'm not standing for that. So that's where we are. And as soon as we stop dropping that need to perform in that way, when we can stop hanging our worthiness on our quest for perfection, that's when we become really, truly connected. And that's when we can stop being lonely, because we have real and authentic connections to people outside of ourselves and have a real and authentic connection to the person inside of ourselves as well. They hold hands. They go together, and you can't have real authentic connection outside of yourself if you don't have it inside of yourself. So as you're working on that, you are going to find that the relationships that you have, if you can't show up without your mask in them, they are going to fall away. You're no longer going to feel comfortable in those positions, in those situations. You're no longer going to feel comfortable in those relationships. So they will just naturally fall away. And when I say naturally, it will hurt, but you will be making decisions based on yourself, and you will be you won't want to be feeling disconnected and lonely again. Once you take your mask off and when you put it back on, it feels really icky. And you remember what it feels like to not wear it and the freedom the freedom that you feel in that. And you decide somewhere along the way that you don't want to feel like that anymore. So you take the mask off and you leave it off. And so, I'm talking about things. And this is what I love about these conversations, right? It's vague, but it's specific. It's both. And it's different for everybody, right? The way that people do this is different for themselves. The way that I did it, different for me than what it's going to look like for you. But one of the ways to do this is by sharing your stories openly, honestly, and without shame. There is such power in our stories. One of my dearest friends was diagnosed with cancer when she was 38 years old. And she's healthy. She was healthy then. She's healthy now. And luckily, they caught it in time. And now she is a massive advocate for colon cancer screening. But what she did is she shared her story authentically. Now, that's a big story, which is beautiful, and it's still brave to share, and it is inspiring to see people share their stories like that. I have my own story of suicidal ideations, suicide plans, suicide thoughts. Like I have my own suicide survival story, and that'll come. But I tell that story because it allows people who would never think that I could be in an unhealthy place. My friend tells her story because she is the beacon of health who had a life-threatening illness, even when she appeared to be this beacon of health. So those are two really big stories that you can share to start connecting yourself to people. And that's important to do. It's very, it takes a lot of courage to do that. But there's also opportunity to share your small stories. Those are big too, right? Like, stop apologizing that your house is a mess. Let people see that. Let people see that you're thankful that your tile is dirt colored because you don't mop it as much as you probably ought to. And, let go of that too. Like, I mop my floor whenever I need to. And whenever that is the right time for me. Might not be the right time for you, but it's the right time for me. And I'm not going to apologize for that. Let people know when you aren't at the top of your game. We had so many opportunities with that last year, with being in quarantine and lockdown and not knowing what our kids are going to be doing and distance learning from home and how we juggle all this stuff. Like, I can't tell you how many people I saw trying to put on these brave faces of everything's okay. Look at me, I'm okay. Or people would just drop away because they weren't able to show their struggle. They weren't able to show their challenges. And that's okay too. But what connects us, truly, deeply connects us, is sharing our struggles, sharing our stories. I think our stories are so impactful. Just today, I've had two really interesting conversations with two different people in the last 2 days. And one of them today was with a gal who is coming. Her husband is taking my husband's job. And my husband's job has a role for me in it. And so she is nervous about that role and how she's going to fill that role. And I was too when I came into it. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how I was going to be. I didn't know what the role entailed. And it's just a whole lot of unknowns. And so today when I was talking to her, I got to tell her about what the job entailed, but mainly what I told her is that I was scared shitless too coming into it. And that everything that she was feeling, I felt that too. I understood. And you know what? We connected through that through a real connection from a real place. When I was a new mom, I was not a very confident new mom. And I can remember feeling so much shame about that. And I remember desperately searching for someone else who was a new mom that also wasn't feeling confident and might have been struggling a little bit. And I couldn't find it. No one was telling me that they were also struggling. And so that made it worse, because then that did make me feel isolated, even more so than having a new baby in a new place where you didn't know anyone. And so the people that I met, they all seemed to be doing wonderfully with their children, and they were so happy, and I was not enjoying being a mom. And I couldn't find anybody who shared that same story. And to this day, and it doesn't matter, I don't know if they were just having a mask on of everything is okay and I love this, because they felt like that's what they were supposed to be saying. But God, did I need that at that time? Just one person to say, I see you, and it sucks for me too. So I lead with my stories. This whole podcast is about stories. And it's about how we can connect through one another with our stories. So if you're a new mom and you're not feeling confident as a new mom, and you're sad and you're lonely and you're crying every night and your baby won't sleep and you don't know what you're doing wrong and you feel like a failure as a woman and as a mom, same. I felt that way too. That's a normal way of feeling. That's the other part of sharing our stories. It normalizes these feelings that we label as bad, that we label as shameful. Because therefore, if we are feeling them, then we are bad. What type of mother doesn't love being a mother right out of the gate on day one? It took a while. That's what I thought about myself. That's a real thought I had in my head. How can you not love this? Every woman is meant to love this. I didn't. And now, of course, now that I am being authentic with my story and open with my story, guess what? I'm meeting more and more people who also struggled with early motherhood. When I've been open and honest about the struggles that I have with moving all the time, guess what I find out? I start to meet people who also have the same struggles. Now, some of them we become fast and close friends, and some of them we have a fleeting moment of, oh my God. Do you do that too? Or whatever shared experience it is, right? I'm just kind of moving some stuff there because that kind of felt pretty big. But your stories are important. If you're lonely right now, if you've just moved to a new city or a new state and you don't know anybody yet, it's okay. It's okay when someone asks you, how are you doing? For you to be like, you know what? I'm not doing that great. Now, some people don't want to know. I will never say that if somebody asks you how you're doing and you spill your guts, they're going to be like, me too, sister. Hallelujah. Yes. I'm not saying that. But you'll never know unless you start to be authentic. When you start to take that mask off and let people see how you really are. And then you'll start to meet people who have the same shared experiences. Or you'll start to connect with them from a very real place that you can start to have real conversations. Because look, here's the death of me, small talk. Gag me out. I hate small talk. I hate it when, and I've started to refuse this. This is something that is falling away from my life. If you only want a surface level relationship, then that is all you'll get from me, is a surface level relationship. I want to fill my time with people that I can connect to on every level, that I know just as much about them as they know about me. That is a non-negotiable in my book now. So if you only want to get to know me on a surface level, that's fine. You can get to know me on a surface level, but you are not going to get a lot of my time. And that is okay. That is how I am choosing to be present and to be in aligned with myself. I don't have time for that. I want the friend that's going to sit on my porch or come in my house after I've microwaved salmon for lunch from the night before and doesn't care what my house smells like, what I look like. They're going to come over to talk to me and just be with me. They're going to share their shit with me just like they expect me to share mine with them. And I'm not saying it all has to be bad. This doesn't all have to be real deep and heavy stuff. Like I want the person that I want to connect with the person and make time for the person that calls me because something phenomenal just happened and they want somebody who's going to be genuinely excited for them, who's going to cheer just as wildly as if it happened for them. I will cheer for you as if it happened for me. Because I know you and I'm connected to you and we are authentic and we are real. That's the relationships that I want in my life. I don't have time for any others. I won't give it much energy. I'll be nice and cordial to you, but I'm not gonna invite you to lunch every Tuesday. And that's okay. I'm going to wish you the best, and I'm going to cheer wildly for you. But I only have room and time for people in my life that take off their masks and let me see all of them. Because ultimately, when they do that, I know it's safe for me to do that. which is why I'm right here, right now, today, on a day that I'm a little bit low. Like I'm not yee-hawing and hollering and hooping. And I didn't have my nappy roots on before I sit down because that didn't feel authentic. That this feels like it needs to come from a place of, hey, guess what? Sister Fran with her own show about self-love and acceptance and high energy. Some days she's quiet. Some days her music is more 10,000 Maniacs. And it's okay. And sometimes her music is no music. It's just quiet. And that's okay. And don't think for 2 seconds that I'm not high vibe sitting here right now, because I am. High vibe doesn't always look like dancing in your kitchen. It doesn't always look like, sparkle shoes. It doesn't always look like that. High vibe is honoring yourself right where you are, as you are. And sometimes that's quiet. And that's beautiful. That's why we're here. That's how we're meant to do life. We are meant to live life connected to ourselves and to those outside of ourselves. One of the books that changed my life, it's called When Everything Changes, Change Everything by Neil Donaldson Walsh. He wrote Conversations with God. And in it, one of the things that he said is, when I connect with others, I connect with myself. And I love that quote because it's so true. But I will say, when I first read it, I thought it helped propel me in a direction of connecting outside of myself to connect inside myself. And that's opposite. To truly connect to people outside of me, I first have to be connected to myself. And, sometimes these beautiful quotes in these beautiful books, sometimes they are confusing a little bit. Because just like art, they're all for our own representation, like what it means to me. But that just struck me so deeply. It landed so deeply because I feel that when I allow myself to connect with others, I do feel myself connecting with myself. I do feel that connection deep inside of myself. Because to do that in authenticity, I have to be real. I have to be unmasked. I had to let you see exactly where I am as I'm there. That's what that means. And that's beautiful. That's how we are supposed to be navigating life. Not by ourselves. Even now, as we are getting more connected through social media, which is wonderful. I mean, heck, that's how I'm connecting with you right now. I'm not going to trash it. But that's not my soul connection. My primary connection is in a community that I can go and sit on somebody's porch. I can pick up the phone and call them. I can shoot them a text. I can take a walk with them Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. I can do life with them. My mother-in-law, I'm so blessed. I have a great relationship with my mom, and I also have a great relationship with my mother-in-law. So I feel like I have two moms. It's really a great place to be. But she has this great group of friends. She's a retired educator, early elementary educator, and they would her teacher friends, they did life together. And every year for Christmas, they would get together all day and they would bake Christmas cookies at somebody's house. And they hooted and they hollered and they had fun. And, they made these beautiful Christmas cookies together. And when my mother-in-law turned 60, we got all of her friends together and we had a wonderful party. And one of her friends said the most beautiful thing. And she said that through those Christmas cookie parties, that they buried parents together. They graduated kids together. They got married to new spouses together. They did life. And they reflected and they shared during those beautiful all-day baking sessions during the holiday season. That's how we're meant to do life. Together, supporting each other. My grandmother, she was a country lady that lived in Poor Valley, Virginia, if you wonder where my saucy little accent comes from. And you want to talk about doing life together. She and her neighbors, I still know their names. And ironically, my kids have their same names. I didn't intentionally name them after them, but she had a Sadie and a Annie that were her neighbors. And now I've got a Sadie and an Annie in my house. But they did life together. They made quilts together. They broke beans on their front porch together. And let me tell you what they're talking about when they're sewing, or when they're breaking beans, or when they're canning tomatoes, or doing whatever they're doing. They're talking about the struggles that their kids are having. They're talking about, how they're going to pay for the groceries that week, or they're talking about what's going on with them, or they're talking about, they're talking about the good things their kids are doing. They're talking about the birth of their grandbabies. They're talking about, what the preacher did at church this week. They're talking about everything. They're not just breaking beans. They're not just making quilts. They're doing life together. They're supporting each other in those times. They're being as real and raw and authentic as they can be, because that's the only way they know how to be. They had to put bullshit stuff up on social media because they were afraid somebody would think that they're not as good as what they're supposed to be. They didn't have that because they knew what real life really was. We're getting further and further away from what real life is really supposed to be. And how we get back to that, which we are, friends, that's what 2020 did for us. It broke us. When we physically had to be in our houses away from everyone, it broke so many of us. When we were forced to do it alone, we finally saw the importance of doing it together. I'm going to say that again because that felt really big. When we were forced to do it alone, we discovered the importance of doing it together. I will never do this life alone again. I know the joy of doing it connected. I know the joy of doing it together. The bad shit doesn't seem so bad when somebody's sitting beside you. The good stuff feels even better when somebody's cheering with you. We're not supposed to be alone. And it's our stories that connect us. It's our willingness to show up and to be seen. That's another reason why I've said this all along. That's what my podcast is about. It's about showing up and being seen fully. And not just the sparkly, not just the peacock with her tail all out. It's also letting you see the shit show too. When I say I'm a sparkle shit show, it is true. And I thank God my coach called me that. Thank you, Natalie Imka. It's the best gift I've ever gotten because it's so true. It is so true. We're not supposed to do this alone. Share your stories. Bravely, friends, take off your masks and let people see you. Because you are beautiful underneath your mask. You are beautiful. You are whole, complete, and perfect, just as you are, where you are. I love you. I thank you for seeing me today. I kind of got a little emotional, maybe started to cry a little bit, but it's okay. Talked about some real important stuff. I talked about some real things, some raw things still. But thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. And thank you for being brave enough to be seen yourself. Hop on Facebook and let me know how this is going for you. Let me know about a time that you had where you connected with someone on a level or a story that you shared that brought you closer to somebody. Or just tell me how much it sucks to do it by yourself and how much you crave in a community and how much you crave in not doing it alone. Because you're not alone, sis. I'm here. Everybody's here. We got each other. I'm crying again. Good. Holy goodness. Thanks for being with me today. I love you all. Take care. Bye.